Stop asking questions. Stop doing meta commentary. Just have fun. We're going on a simple, fun, classic adventure.
Black humor, ultra-violence, Nazi snakes, and a talking cucumber. What has not happened during these seasons in Rick and Morty? The series from the very first episode destroys all imaginable and unthinkable patterns and is not afraid to reveal the most acute problems of modern society with the help of absurd plots. Today on the About Movies channel, we will talk about how Rick and Morty managed to become one of the main TV series of our time. What does this series have in common with The Simpsons and BoJack Horseman? And why is there so much cruelty in it? You will find out very soon. And before that, click on the subscription button and the bell to understand cinema better than most. Subscribe and we'll start. Rick and Morty is an animated sitcom. Its genre neighbors are The Simpsons and Family Guy, or if we take something more modern, Gravity Falls and BoJack Horseman. The first thing that unites them is vertical storytelling. That is, the plot of most episodes is built around unrelated stories. And only by the end of the season, sometimes the episodes line up into a more or less integral narrative, so that at the beginning of the new season they split up again into a series of independent plots. The second similarity is using the same locations. In this, animation inherits this aspect from its older brother, traditional TV sitcoms. Permanent locations most often are those places where heroes can get together, for example, the living room. Such a place was in The Simpsons, Family Guy, BoJack Horseman, Gravity Falls, but also in Rick and Morty. The dining room plays a similar role where the Smith family regularly takes their meals. The appearance of this room will change only in those rare cases when something so unusual happens to the whole world that it can break the inviolability of the family boredom of everyday life. It also works for Rick's garage. Its appearance retains stability, striking for an interplanetary rogue. In many ways, it works to create a cozy space where you want to return. Continuing to talk about genre peculiarities, it must be said that the tendency of animated sitcoms to constant references to pop culture and Rick and Morty looks like quite worthy successors of the genre tradition. Here's a hero who clearly resembles Freddy Krueger.
And hide!
And here are clothes of aliens, obviously referring to Star Trek.
Sir, we have a situation over here.
If there's a wiener on that monitor, I swear to God.
Endless name-dropping becomes habitual.
I need one of your hairs. This isn't Game of Thrones.
Ow! You speak the true.
Oh my God! Dad's in Cloud Atlas!
I'm in Cloud Atlas! What's Cloud Atlas?
Cape Fear! Cape Fear!
Treats us like Ghostbusters. So Ghostbusters aren't cool now?
Hey, why do you have Future's self-titled album on vinyl?
The last and important feature of the animated sitcom is that regardless of its shell, and it can be a caricatured American town, animalistic Los Angeles, or the world of absurd science fiction, at its core is always the drama of human relations. And here, Rick and Morty either is not an exception. Marriage crisis.
Jerry's going to spend some time divorced.
Costs of growing up.
What up, my Helsings?
Relationships between children and parents.
Dad, I feel like I've spent my life pretending you're a great guy and trying to be like you. And the ugly truth has always been
that I'm not that great a guy and you're exactly like me.
And the presence of a spaceship in the Smith house, intergalactic television, or, for example, the tame dragon who was obsessed with sex, doesn't make all these eternal conflicts less recognizable.
Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die. Come watch TV.
In general, Rick and Morty fits well into the usual canon of animated sitcoms. Now, let's talk about its differences. Firstly, it should be said that Rick and Morty is a show that has a lot of brutality. Violence and death are shown here openly, and they have no exceptions. Anyone can turn out to be a cruel killer or victim. An unsuccessful experiment becomes a cause of death. Shrimps nationalists, and simply unreasonable driving behavior. Violence is shown extremely ingenuously. The series are full of whimsical methods of murder and simply vivid death scenes. In one of the episodes, it's generally raining blood. The first name that comes to mind in connection with violence is Quentin Tarantino. He also has a number of memorable scenes, his bright and slightly unnatural violence, a way to distance from what is happening on screen to feel its cinematic nature. But in Rick and Morty, the force works exactly in the opposite direction. Here, this is a way to show that cartoon reality, which usually seems to be extremely conditional, is not really afraid of the complexity and ambiguity of the real world. This merry nihilism of Rick and Morty contrasts sharply with seriousness of discussed topics and highlights the moral dilemmas faced by heroes. Even though this whole theater of brutality can be shocking at times, the show continues to closely explore pain and death. In Rick and Morty, you can find lots of different, unpleasant, strange shapes and structures. Alien beings often appear as something slippery, sticky, and repulsive.
Boy, Morty, I really Cronenberged the world up, didn't I? You got a whole planet of Cronenbergs walking around down there, Morty.
Surname Cronenberg sounds here for a reason. In his painting The Fly, he meticulously captures a painful mutation of the protagonist into a strange organism of unpleasant species. Cronenberg explores our relationship and what is considered unpleasant and vile. Rick and Morty constantly exploits the effect of this strange growth, removing us from everything fantastic and inhuman. One wild image replaces another, and with them grows our inner conviction that the world of the multiverse, Rick and Morty, is stranger to us. It seems that it's impossible to understand and accept it, but the growing lump of this internal xenophobia is destroyed by episodes in which it suddenly turns out that in fact all these fantastic monsters are quite close to human. The unnamed soldier insect has someone to lose.
Glenn's bleeding to death! Someone call his wife and children! They're not robots, Rick!
The formidable fairy giant also has a family. Many important thoughts are spoken by aliens, and their speech is much more logical and intelligible than statements of any member of the Smith family.
And do you know why I'm never coming back to this planet? Because the two of you are the fucking worst! You both hate yourselves and each other!
So the authors show us how much we sometimes indulge in internal xenophobia and rush to conclusions. The show's cosmopolitan overtones are further enhanced by Rick's motley group of friends, among whom humans are rare. Of course, there are also villains among the aliens.
Hi, Morty. I'm Crumbopolis Michael. I'm an assassin. I buy guns from your grandpa.
But the real, unprincipled evil mostly looks quite routinely.
But speeches are for campaigning. Now is the time for action.
The cartoon is engaged in an ironic deconstruction of pop cultural narratives, not only mentioning famous actors.
Hey, he looks a lot like Eric Stoltz from the movie Mask.
Or putting some visual quotes.
Shoot, now look, it's like a Where's Waldo page. Can you find me?
But also using recognizable script constructions at the level of the entire series. So the episode in which Rick tries to recognize the boundaries of the illusion imposed on him by aliens parodies the inclination of director M. Night Shyamalan to unexpected plot twists. The episode Lawnmower Dog, where Rick and Morty try to get into a dream of the math teacher and sell him the idea that Morty deserves only the highest marks, clearly imitates Christopher Nolan's Inception. The episode One Crew Over the Cuckoo's Morty is based on ridiculing the cliches from robbery films.
Thanks for doing this, guys.
What's the job?
That was it. Bye.
And in the 5th episode of the 4th season, the main scenario of The Terminator is brought to the point of absurdity. Of course, visual quotes are useful too. Even The Avengers and other cult action movies can also come under your arm. And here is how the creators parody Mad Max. For parody of robbery films, they are using flashing editing and split screens. And in the scene with the transformation of Rick the Cucumber, we see another no less clever editing sequence. The Rick and Morty episodes, parodying various genres of cinema, turn out to be one of the brightest in the series. And which of the episodes of this series do you like the most? Be sure to share your opinion in the comments. The flexible approach allows authors to implement completely incredible, even absurd stories that couldn't be told in some more conventional way. Taking the series where Morty grows a giant hand which has its own will and its own mission.
Hey! I didn't do that! Okay, this is exciting. We're making some discoveries about muscle memory.
Or the episode where the Smith house is full of absurd characters. Or the episode where the heroes broke the space-time continuum and we are shown several parallel realities at once. This list can be continued for a very long time. In a combination of incredibly bold scenario ideas and their clear incarnations, it vividly proves endless possibilities of animation. Transforming mass culture, the creators of Rick and Morty don't just parasitize on the popularity of their favorite films, but create truly original works of art. However, with all these scripting and editing cinematography tricks, it seems like the core of this series lies in the transformation of the protagonist. Rick is undoubtedly not a very good person, but he always turns out to be right. His role is being a cynical demigod. He's not ready to admit the dubiousness of his ethics and change for the better.
I'm not driven by avenging my dead family, Morty. That was fake. I'm driven by finding that McNugget sauce. I want that Mulan McNugget sauce, Morty.
And the show culminates when it shows the vulnerability of this nihilism. When Rick resigns himself and does something different from what he normally would, and thus gives us a faint hope. So maybe Rick has a chance of salvation. But Rick and Morty, of course, is far from the only animated series that shows bloody, violent, and frank stories. We have already mentioned The Simpsons, BoJack Horseman, and other non-childish animated series that openly talk to the viewer on taboo topics. And there are more and more such animated series every year. If you click on the icon that appeared on your screen, you will learn the full history of adult cartoons, from Betty Boop to South Park and Shrek, and also understand why recently directors and screenwriters prefer to reveal serious topics with the help of animation. Follow the link and watch. That's all for today. About Movies was with you. Like this video and see you later. Bye-bye.